Welcome to the Brand Theory Podcast, the podcast for helping you uncover your passion, realize your purpose, and take the aligned action. Together, we're going to prove the theory that when we live our lives on brand, the possibilities become limitless. I'm your host, Danielle Marquesi, branding expert and business coach. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Brand Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Marquesi, and this week we are sitting down and chatting with a very good friend of mine, Olesya. But before we get into that episode and before I even start her introduction, I wanted to let you guys in on something very exciting. So as you know, we've been talking a lot about personal branding, what that even means, how to build a personal brand, the power of personal branding, all that good stuff. And now I've created something to help you take that one step further in really diving deep in who you are, understanding who you are, understanding what your bigger picture looks like, what you truly want out of your business, out of your life, and how making sure your roots in your personal brand can only help elevate that by launching a brand new mini course, Personal Branding and Beyond. I have been working on this for so long, and I am beyond excited that it is here for you. You can go through it. It is officially all course materials are being launched this Thursday, October 29th, but there is a pre-order deal going on right now. So if you're listening to this, make sure you head over to the link to check it out. We are covering everything from defining exactly who you are, diving deep into areas that you may have not even thought about, getting in touch with those higher desires of yourself. Basically, we're getting ready to fall in love with yourself on a whole new level. And then we're going to get into what you want to be known for. So we're diving deep into connecting to what you really want to be known for. You'll gain clarity around how you want to be perceived as a person and as a brand and how to marry these two things. And then we're going to get into the brand audit, where we're going to be taking a look at the desires for your personal brand and how you're coming across in your current business brand, or how you plan to come across in your current business brand, and make sure, again, that those two things are married and make sure that they are all in alignment with who you are. And as you grow, you take that personal brand with you. And then the last thing we're going to go through inside this course is how to show up on brand through your social media. So a lot of the times we get caught up in the games of social media, we get caught up in displaying things just because we think that's what our audience wants to see. But we want to make sure that we are showing up exactly as ourselves, authentic, sharing our truth, sharing a little bit more of that personality, all that good stuff. Again, guys, this isn't about reinventing yourself. This really is about highlighting the unique traits that make you you. And those are the qualities that sets your business apart from others in your field and builds that like, trust, and know factor. When people feel like they can, first of all, like you and trust you and know you, they are way more likely to opt into your paid offers, your free offers, your higher level programs, your lower level programs, and all of the in between. But we need to give them the opportunity to connect with us, and we do that through building our personal brand. So inside this course, you're getting lifetime access to all 4 of the course modules, plus any updates that I make from now until forever, lifetime access to all corresponding course materials such as workbooks and course videos and all that good stuff. I'm also giving you a guided visualization meditation to help you envision and execute your aligned AF personal brand, what that bigger vision looks like, all that good stuff. You're also getting lifetime access to the bonus module of the YouTube blueprint. So if you've ever thought about, or you've ever wondered about starting a YouTube channel, it is a very good branch of the personal brand that you can start through a creative video form or teaching style or anything. There's so many ways to go with it. And this kind of blueprint will walk you through how to map that out if that's something you're thinking about. And you're also getting lifetime access to the members-only Facebook group, where I am answering all your questions and giving you extra tips and tricks on building a personal brand. It's also a great opportunity to connect with one another, help each other, lift each other up, all that good stuff. And of course, the knowledge and confidence you need to take your personal brand to the next level, to take your business, income, and lifestyle to the next level. So this is only $37 USD, but for a very temporary amount of time. So if you're interested in this, or even just want to know, you have questions, go over to the website. I'll link it below. Grab that access, that early access now, get inside the Facebook group. We'll get to know each other in there, and then we'll just kind of start together, right? There's going to be people in and out of the course through now and forever, but I want to make sure that we're getting to know each other and kind of networking, lifting each other up, all that good stuff sooner rather than later. So any questions, feel free to DM me over on Instagram. Definitely check that out. Thank you for listening to this episode. And let's get into this amazing conversation with Olesya. Welcome back to another episode of the Brand Theory Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Olesya, business and mindset mentor, who focuses on helping spiritual leaders rewire their beliefs so they can go from salesy to sales queens and build their soul-aligned empire. I'm super excited about this episode, you guys. We actually recorded an episode last week on Olesya's podcast, the Soulful Selling Podcast, and the conversation was so good and literally so soulful that I'm so excited to have her on my podcast today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. So let's start out by telling the audience just a little bit about yourself. I think I always like to hear, or especially when I was starting in business, I always like to hear those inspiration stories, those motivation stories of inside look of your journey and how you kind of got to where you are today.
Sure. So I've always wanted to be somebody who was going to help people. And the only way I knew how to do that was if I became a doctor. So as a little girl, I always wanted to be a physician. And I am the type of personality that I go all out. So I was like, I'm going to do like some crazy surgery thing. And I was always into like all these medical shows. And then as I started to get into high school and I started university, I realized that like actual work that it took to become a physician. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I don't think I'm ready to commit like 14 years plus of my life to education. And because I wanted a family, I wanted kids, I wanted freedom. Yeah. And I just didn't see that being possible for me as a physician. As exciting as it was, I love school, I love learning, I love learning about the human body, but it just wasn't. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? I love working with people. I love learning about the human body. So I became a kinesiologist. So for those that don't know what it is, it's essentially a human movement specialist. So what I do is I use exercise to help people essentially get better. And so I started in a gym, and then I started to work with people one-on-one. And that's kind of where my first entrepreneurial spirit started. Was I started to branch out because I realized that working for somebody else wasn't something I wanted to do. It was very restrictive. Asking for time off really feels icky to me. I didn't really. But mind you, like my entire childhood, like I started working when I was 15, my entire childhood as a young adult, I was working hard all the time. Like I knew how to work hard. I grew up in a house where parents worked hard. Generations of my family have worked hard. They were farmers. So it
wasn't something you're afraid of.
Exactly. I wasn't afraid to work hard. And I think that that's why I was so attracted by medical school, because I was like, I can do this. Like I'm not worried. But the more I started working, the more I started realizing that that wasn't what I wanted. Like I was okay to work hard, but I wanted to do it on my own terms. So, fast forward, I'm in my mid-20s and I've been working for a couple of years, and I just find myself burning out every like 4 to 6 months. And I'm like, what's going on? Like I'm doing what I love. I'm working with people. I'm changing people's lives. People are losing weight. People are healing from injuries. Like I'm doing good work and I'm making good money. Like I'm doing well for myself. At this point, I was in a situation where I was like purchasing a home, like a condo, and it was really exciting. I was making lots of big moves in my life, but I was burning out. So I was like, okay, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I started to seek for help, like support, when it came to like figuring out what I wanted to do. I did, or like what I wanted to do with my my burnout. I was never anxious or depressed or anything, but I just wanted to know why it was happening. And so at that point, I was introduced to network marketing. So a really good friend of mine who's in the field, she said, I have this company that I'm working with that, you can maybe take away some of your clients that are burning you out, and you can start doing this, working for this company. And I was really excited actually, because I still have my company. It's in health and wellness, and I got excited. But that's where my actual personal development started to spark, because that was true entrepreneurship. Because if you start working with somebody, you're selling their products, you are driving your own bus. And so I was like, what is personal development? Like I had never heard of it. And so I started reading books, and I started to discover that I really enjoyed it. And at that point, I was also introduced to energy healing. I started working with this energy healer, and I just started to uncover things about my past, as a kid, working hard. My parents split up when we were really young, my brother and I. And so I kind of took care of my brother for a really long time. And so I was always kind of the caregiver, and I was always a people pleaser. And that's kind of where my burnout came from, was because I was always like, sure, new clients. Yeah, I'll take more people on. Yes. I would always say yes to everything. And it would be like, yes to my friends and yes to other things. And I just realized that like, I wasn't saying yes to myself. And in this period of time, I had probably put on like 25, 30 pounds and I just wasn't feeling good in my body. And this is coming from somebody who's in the fitness field. Like this is what I do. This is what I teach, but I just wasn't taking care of my body. And so, as I was working with the healer, she said to me, I think that you're meant to do like some kind of coaching or some kind of energy healing. Like you have gifts that you need to tap into. And at that point I was like, you know what, I really need to hire a coach. Like I really need to hire like a business coach that's going to teach me how to really build a business on my own. And as much as I had a business, because I've been solopreneur for almost a decade, I didn't actually know how to build a business, to be completely honest. My business was entirely referral based because of the work that I had done. I was all referral based, and that's how I met Kelly. I found her podcast. I started listening to podcasts, and I found her podcast, and I just fell in love with her. And so I started working with her, and she just opened up my eyes to what was possible. And that's kind of where coaching started to become something that I looked into, because I was already coaching just in different industries. I was already coaching in fitness. I was already teaching classes, in the fitness industry. I was growing my network marketing team, where I had people coming on with me, and I was teaching them about the business, teaching them how to sell. And I was like, this is crazy. Like and at that point I started to lose interest in the fitness industry. And that was a big part of it, was because it was so limited. There's only the certain amount you can charge. People are not always at their highest potential. And that was kind of, I felt that was keeping me small. And so in the last year and a half or so, I've been transitioning out of that. I still do work a little bit in that field because I do enjoy it. But in the last 6 months, I would say, since COVID, I'll be completely honest, because I lost a big part of my income during COVID, because I do in-home and I teach, right? So that's when I just decided that I'm just going to ramp up my coaching business. This is something that I wanted to run with. I wanted to make this happen for myself. And in the midst of all this, I started a podcast earlier this year, and I just realized that there is so much power in working with people who are energetically aligned, energetically working with their soul, but also chasing the things that actually make them feel good.
Yeah.
And so I started to become really passionate with digging into people's minds and how they work and why people think the way that they think, and how can I really help them tap into that and help them rewire it so that they can really step into their higher self. Because that's what happened to me. Is I started to challenge myself, and I started to do things that were uncomfortable for me, and I started to change. But what I started to realize was like, things could be different if I decided that they got to be different.
Yeah.
Like my life doesn't just happen to me. I actually manifest what happens in my life. And if any of you are listening right now, and if you don't really believe that, I really want you to like sit down with yourself and just to like be open to really think about, because there's always things that are happening in our life, whether they're tragic or not. And we all have our trauma that we deal with.
Yeah.
But I really, truly, truly believe that we're here on this earth to learn something. And if that comes in a form of a trauma, rather than being in victimhood there, we're allowed to feel feelings. I mean, we are human and we're allowed to. But I really, truly believe if once we're past that point of grief or whatever we're dealing with, we have to start looking at this picture and say, what is this here to teach me? What can I take from this experience and turn it into something big? And that's what started to happen for me, is I started to ask myself, like, the things that are in my life that I don't like, that don't make me feel good, what am I doing to manifest them? What am I doing to make them come to life? And as soon as I started asking that, my business just exploded. because I started to unblock things and I started to rewire and I started helping people do the same. And you see people just unfold in front of you and you're like, this is the cool. And I'm at that point in my life where I feel so fulfilled. And I have seen before we hopped on this call, we were chatting about how much I've changed even in the last 6 months. 2020 has been so hard for people, but I truly, truly believe if you look at it in the opposite way, 2020 has been the biggest gift for me. Because during the time when we were on lockdown, I was not working the jobs I didn't like anymore or seeing the people I didn't like anymore. And all of a sudden I started to realize like I had never given myself this much time off, like true time off where you're waking up when your body's ready to wake up. You're eating the food that you want without being rushed. You're spending time with your loved ones. You're enjoying yourself. You're actually reading, you're listening to things. And I just realized like, holy shit, I want more of that.
Yeah.
Like,
it was kind of like, not to cut you off, it was probably kind of like, this is why you got into business for yourself, to have your days like this, and you weren't doing it. And now you're almost like forced to be living your days like that, spending quality time with yourself.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so post-COVID, well, we're still in it, but post-lockdown, I actually had decided that I wasn't going to come back to some of the things that I was doing. I told clients I'm not coming back. I started to actually be picky with the clients I worked with. And I said, I don't think that we're the right fit. I'm going to send you to somebody else. And I now work only with people that I love to work with. And they're still part of my kinesiology business that I'm ready to let go in the next 6 months to a year, to a point where I probably won't be doing that work anymore because it's no longer fulfilling me. But you hold on to that, right? Because that feels comfortable. I've been doing it for such a long time. You also work with people that you really enjoy working with. So then part of that, and me being a people pleaser, is you want to continue to work with them because you don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
You don't, because you're so familiar with them. Like some of these people I've been working for 5-7 years. They know me so well and I know them so well that it would be strange for me to not even be in their space. But the work that I'm doing right now on myself is letting go of the things that I know are not fulfilling me. The shit that we fill our days with that are not driving us any further forward, because we're holding on to something that's comfortable. And so a lot of the work I'm doing and I will be doing for this fourth quarter is really working on letting go of the things that don't work for me and really stepping into more doing the things that challenge me, even if they feel scary. Because, there are parts, as coaches, we're always trying to step up and do things that are uncomfortable. I'm launching a first group program. I've never done it.
Yeah.
It's something that's uncomfortable.
It's going to be so good.
But exactly, because you're doing things like every day, your ego is like trying to go like, how are you even doing this? Like, you've never done this before. And then you're like, but the growth, the higher self of you and the growth that you've done, you're like, but I'm meant to do this. I know, because I'm stepping into that higher version of myself. So I'm sorry if that was really long, but I just wanted to show you guys like how much your life can change, and it's okay to transition. And the one thing that I'm experiencing right now is the confusion in my closest circle of friends. Is they're like, you're doing what now? Like, how? You didn't go to school for this. You didn't do this, because society teaches us that we need to have education and things. We need to have certificates. We need to do all these things. And it's like, okay, sure. But I also have like 10 years of coaching experience in a different field, but I'm still guiding people through whatever they're doing. So if you're sitting there and listening to this and you're like really being pulled to do something else in your life, like I really encourage you to really explore that, because I really truly believe that once you give yourself permission to do that, like all kinds of things are going to unfold for you.
Absolutely. Gosh, that was great. I almost forgot we were on a podcast. So I was like so into what you were saying.
Oh, thank you.
When we first met, guys, we met at an event that Kelly, who she was talking about before, our coach, was hosting. We were both there for different events, but we happened to be able to meet and just talk a little bit, but we weren't really able to go into depths of our stories and our journeys and all of that. So I was like completely like, oh my God, yeah, okay, cool. I didn't know that. Really? No way. But something major that came up for me was, so you're in kinesiology, and that's like very science-based, right? And this personal development work that we do is very spiritual based. So what was that like for you once you started kind of entering into that spiritual world a little bit more? What did that look like? Were you scared to do that? You kind of talked about the inner circle being a little confused about what you're doing. Were you getting some backlash? Like, just tell us a little about that.
Yeah, sure. So just a backstory, I grew up in a Catholic home.
Okay.
So I grew up, it wasn't that my parents were super, super religious, but, you know, I was baptized. I was taught to believe that there's something higher than us, that there's
Yeah.
something more than us. You know, I used to pray as a kid. Now it's in a form of meditation
Sure.
or journaling or whatever. But I have always believed that there was something higher than us.
Mm-hmm.
And I really found comfort in talking to God. Like I really, you know, whatever that looks like for you, it doesn't, because when I do my meditations, I don't feel like I'm talking to God. I feel like I'm talking to honestly my higher self and like
Yeah.
the energy that's around me now. But what had happened was, I remember when I was in my, like really deep into my kinesiology work, and I remember my clients saying to me when I would work with them, because I do a lot of manual therapy as well, and they would say to me like, you have healing hands. I was like, that's weird. Like, that's a weird thing to say. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I was taking it as a compliment. I was like, oh, thank you, you know, because I'm like, well, you know, I know, because I would always take it back to like, well, it's science. Like I know how to
Yeah.
do it. So of course you're feeling better. And when I started working with the healer, and her and I started to go deep into that world, I realized that I did have gifts that I always had. I just didn't really explore them. So what started to happen is I just started to believe it more. And then that's where my meditation, like I've been doing yoga for a while. I started yoga like in my early 20s. So, you know, when you're in yoga and you're always taught to meditate, when I started to really go deep into meditation, I started to find that I was like, oh my gosh, so many more portals are opening up for me. Like I'm so much more creative. I would consider myself coming from like kind of a hothead house where like,
Sure.
you know, everyone's loud. We're European. So everybody's loud. Everyone's kind of obnoxious. And so that was a part of myself that I didn't love because it sometimes was overwhelming for people.
Yeah.
So I found that meditation actually helped me to bring that down. And so I wouldn't say that it was like foreign to me to go from being, you know, in a church to becoming more spiritual. But what started to happen is you start to kind of feel strange around people who don't believe that, because it's different being religious and going to church, because like everybody understands that because it's very 3D. It's like, well, yeah, you go to a church, you know, you're part of a community, but spirituality is very like out there. And because a lot of the times when we hear people talking about spirituality, we're talking to somebody that doesn't exist, and it's very forefront. Whereas religion, it's like, well, there's a book, it tells us that God was here and God's son was here and like all these stories, so like we have to believe it because it's written on 3D in a book. Like, so we kind of can wrap our heads around it. But if we go deeper than that, sometimes people get a little bit overwhelmed or confused. But what I realized was like, this made me feel good. I saw that I was growing, and I saw people around me changing that were doing the same thing as me.
Yeah.
And also what started to happen is, as I started working with the healer, I also became friends with other healers, other spiritual coaches. And the more you do that, the more you change your circle of friends.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is my friends are changing too.
Yeah.
Because people are just, you can't have the same conversations once you have a conversation that makes you feel really good and you're able to talk about the things that make you thrive. So, and I think that's okay. I think that we are here all to do our thing. And when we discover that and we're ready to have those conversations, I find that people just kind of, you just manifest those people into your life. You just kind of find them. Because to be honest, I have no idea how I found my healer. Like, yeah, I went to an event where she was there, but like, how did I decide that I was going to show up there and she was going to be there and I was going to be pulled by her energy and then all of a sudden wanted to work with her, even though I had kind of didn't really even know what she did.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I hope that answered your question, but essentially I don't think it felt that weird to me. But I think the weirder part was like just how much, and I've had friends who I had been friends for a long time, you know, in elementary school and high school that have fallen away because we just don't have the same beliefs anymore.
Yeah.
Being attached to that 3D religious part of you, makes it very boxy. If you're not like, my parents were religious, but they were also like but like we know that there's more than that.
Right.
And
Like a
so
bit open-minded.
yeah, so my parents were always a bit open-minded, whereas I have friends, like, because I went to a Catholic school, like my all of my elementary and high school is all Catholic related. So, you know, we had church, we had all these things. So most of my friends are in that. So once you start to do things like growth and personal development, and you start to talk about meditation and you start to talk about higher self, people get very caught up in that. They almost feel like you're going beyond what God is. And it's also kind of like we have this perception of it becoming witchy, which is again a belief that was created a long time ago, because people like me who have gifts, like healing gifts, were taught to, people were taught to not like us because we were evil or we were creating problems in the world. But really we were just creating more space. And in a very masculine world back then, that scared people.
And I feel like those gifts that you're talking about, like those healing powers, no matter what higher belief you believe in, higher power you believe in, I think those are coming from that higher power. So when we are spending more time and digging a little bit deeper and understanding, I feel like those gifts reveal themselves over time. And I think something that turned me away so much from the spirituality world was I thought it had to be like the universe or that's it. But the more I'm spending time with it, like I have a little bit more of a connection to a religious side, and I'm on my own religious journey. That's a podcast for a different day, guys. But the more and more time I spend understanding that part of myself and what I believe and what I want that to look like, she's right. Like the conversations start to happen, the open-minded conversations start to happen, that it doesn't need to look one way, and what works for this person may not work for the other person, but it's the understanding at its base that it's like coming from somewhere, and it's not just, there's more to the eye than me. What's that saying? There's more to the,
more than the eye can see.
Yes. There it is. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so next question, a little bit of branding questions here. Who is Olesya the brand?
I love this one. I am I really am a healer. I am a enthusiast. I'm like a blanket, I would say, for people, and like a safety zone for them to show up exactly as who they can be. And what I'm starting to realize is that the more I show up as myself, the more I can show up bigger for people. Because I think when we hide, especially in branding, like if we are in a situation where we're like, well, it needs to look this way because that's what the people tell us, that, you know, we got to do it this way because that's what the algorithm wants, and like this is how we got to do it, is when we actually step out of brand and out of alignment. I truly, truly believe that the most authentic part of you is your brand. So for me, it's like the meditation and the spirituality and like going deep with people and showing people what's there for them. I channel a lot too when I coach. So for me, it's like, sometimes it's hard to show up as a certain person because when I coach, it comes from spirit, like it comes from higher than me. So sometimes it's challenging for me. Like I sometimes have a hard time showing up on social media because I'm like, well, I want to say this. And sometimes when I have a lot to say, I will show up. And there are times where I'm doing healing work and I'm not ready to show up. But for me, it's like, I would say that like, I'm a blanket for somebody to come get cozy with and feel safe in my space so that I can help them heal and get, and be bigger. And I'm a very transparent coach. So I do not do any of the fluff. I will tell you like it is, because like I said, I channel through. So whatever you're supposed to hear, you will hear. And I think that when I show up as that person, that's when magic happens. That's when people see the biggest results. And I tend to attract people who are ready to work with somebody who's that transparent.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to exactly what you were saying, is when you show up transparent, when you show up authentic in your brand and in your business, that's exactly who you're going to attract.
Absolutely.
But love that. So how did you make the decision to be a self named branded business, meaning that your business is your name, correct?
Yes, yes.
How did you make that decision?
To be honest, nothing was coming to me like as a brand. I am working with a network marketing company as well, which is a brand on their own. But I was finding that I just wasn't ready to come up with a brand because I think I wanted to be the brand. Like I think
Yeah.
I wanted it to be me. And I find that like sometimes like it feels really good to have a brand because you're like, oh, I have this business and it's called this, and like it feels really comfy and whatever. And it's like probably really easy to make marketing things because then you
Yeah.
just put your brand on stuff, right? It just makes it easy. But I think I just wanted to show up as myself, and I don't think that I'll ever, unless something gets channeled through me to show, some kind of a brand name, I think I'm always going to show up as Olesya. Like I think I'm always going to be this, and I'm going to be known as this, and I will just be sharing, my coaching style and my group coaching.
Yeah.
And if I'm like, I know there's a book in me somewhere. I know
Yeah.
that there's, there's lots of retreats in me. Like I can
Yeah.
feel that. I know that I will be speaking on stages. Like that's just something that I see myself but that's going to come when it's ready.
Yeah.
And I think I'm always going to be Olesya. I don't think, like I said, unless spirit tells me otherwise.
Yeah, no, I get that. I did the opposite in my business. I started as Nova Strategics, partly because I was starting it with a friend of mine, and obviously we didn't want to like combine our names, and there was
Yeah.
part of my partner who didn't even want to be like a face in the brand, and I respected that, and all, whatever, decisions were made. And as soon as I decided that I didn't want to do that type of work, like the branding design, website design for other people full time, I had like an identity crisis where I didn't know what kind of business I was or who I was or what I wanted to be doing. But I did really feel connected to being like that personality or that person, that authentic character behind the business. And that's what I've been trying to teach so much of lately, is when we build this personal brand, not even alongside of our business brand, but like in correlation and mending and just as one of the same, everything gets to be what we were saying. We get to attract the authentic audience, build that somewhat of a fan base. But it's not even like, oh my God, we have adoring fans, we're going to give autographs. It's like, wow, we're helping so many people because there's something about us, something about our characteristics, our personality traits, our likes, our dislikes, what we're talking about, that people are resonating with, that people are building this like trust and know factor with. So I love that you knew that right from the start, is like, that's the kind of work that you're going to be doing.
Yeah. I think like when I first started my Instagram, it was very fitness based. And I think my handle was How Fit Are You? So I started with that brand, but then I realized like as much as I was going away from that, especially from fitness, like it just didn't fit the brand anymore. And that was hard to let go of, actually, that Instagram handle, because I was like, that was something that I had been teaching on for a long time. But as I was transitioning, it just wasn't fitting the brand anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You said something interesting, because it's something I experienced too, is letting go of that Instagram handle. It's something so like not huge, right? But it meant so much to us. I put it off for weeks and months. It was not until some of my friends and my coach was like, sit down, we're doing this right now. Like, you have to do it in front of us, kind of thing. Because I just was putting it off. And I don't know if it was like, well, then I'm like letting go of the possibility of my partner coming back into the business. And I didn't even want that. Like, we had both agreed it was better. Nothing bad happened. It was just how life took us. And that's totally fine. She's still my best friend. I live with her. She's downstairs working right now. Like, like there's nothing, there's no ill blood. But it was like a piece of me that I felt was like I was letting go of and I couldn't go back to. But I think if we look at it as, it served its purpose, it served its learning purpose, it served its growth purpose to get us to this point where we are now. That's, I think, how we need to look at that. I don't know if that's something that you also felt.
Yeah. I think we're just so comfortable with being comfortable. Like we're just so comfortable with what we already know that our ego just like wants to stay there. And then also we're like, well, if I change it, will people look it differently at me? And it's like, then it's like the accepting factor. Is there part of me that doesn't believe that I'm good enough or worthy enough or will be enough if I change my name? I think it's very, very like common in human nature, especially for those of us that are not doing any work. Like we know people in in our lives who are not doing any personal development, and for them doing something like this would be very challenging. But I think it's just when we have situations like this where it's hard to let go of things. One of the things I've been doing lately actually is I started to, this is a new belief that and guys, everything is belief. Like whatever it is in your life, like it's just a belief, you can change it. So one of my beliefs recently has been that if I let anything go, like if I just decide like I'm going to let something go, if it's truly meant to be mine, it'll come back. Like in some way or another. If Nova Strategies is supposed to come back to you, it may come back to you maybe in a different form. Maybe you'll start a second business where you hire people to design, websites, and that's going to be part of your business and you can bring that brand back. If it's supposed to be yours, it's going to come back. And I really, truly believe that. And I've actually found comfort in that rather than being upset about something leaving your life.
That's super powerful.
Or leaving a job. It's just like you decide, you take your own life into your own hands and you say, I really believe that if it's supposed to come back, it will. I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to think about what will happen now or later or whatever. I'm just going to make this decision. And I think it'll help you to make powerful decisions if you just decide what works for me now and just go with that. And whatever is supposed to be yours will come back.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Do you want to like wake me up every morning with like a motivational something?
We can record something on your phone.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So we talked about this a little bit on your podcast, but I've been talking a lot about the 3 things and teaching on the 3 things. And what that means is inside our personal brands, if we're feeling super uncomfortable with sharing our personal lives and our business brands or something we're just not used to, we've never done before, I always suggest starting with 3 things. And these can be very basic or these can be a little bit deeper. But 3 things about yourself outside of your business that you can share or talk about to start a conversation that resonates with your audience and kind of attracts those people who either have that thing in common or find it funny or just, again, a basic conversation starter. So I think I shared on your podcast, my 3 things are coffee and travel. I combine them as 2 because coffee takes up a lot, but travel isn't really a thing right now. But when I do travel, I like to try to hunt down the best latte in all the cities that I visit. The next thing is TV. I'm obsessed. I'm always watching something, like everything from the medical dramas and the Grey's Anatomy and me thinking I have a medical degree because I watched the show, and to all the corny fall things like Good Witch is on right now. Like it's so corny, such just terrible storylines and acting. But I can't stop watching.
You got me into Lucifer.
Oh, that's right. We talked about Lucifer.
Oh my God. I've done the first season and I can't stop watching it. It's so good.
Lucifer is so good because he's witty, so witty.
Yes,
it's so funny, but the storylines are good. It's dramatic, but it also has that such comedic relief that those are the types of shows that I also watch. But that's another branch of the TV. And then the last thing is my mom and just the angst that I get her into, the hijinks I pull on her and the relationship and all that. So I want to know, what are your 3 things?
So my first is my animals. So I have a dog and a cat and I just love them so much that I love sharing, especially the cat. He's just so funny. Like he just loves to hang out with me when I'm doing podcasts or if he's in the room. He's not in the room right now. He's just like chilling, but I love talking about them and sharing, how they're sleeping and how they're bothering me. My second thing would be reading. I love reading and I can also say podcasts. Like I love listening to podcasts. I have honestly grown so much from listening to other people share their stories, their wisdom, probably even more than books, because I find that books are amazing. And I love reading them because I just love like a physical copy. But they've been edited. Other people have been in that person's book, right? So it's not always 100% them unless they've published it themselves, which doesn't happen very often. So I love podcasts because we are unfiltered. We're talking about whatever we want to talk about. We're sharing whatever we want to share. And then, listening to conversations between people, it just fuels my fire. Like I'm always sharing things that I'm learning
Yeah.
on podcasts all the time. And then I think my third would probably be food. um Especially, like, I love making smoothies and shakes, and I share I guess it does a little bit relate to my network marketing business because it does have nutrition, but even without that, like, I just love
You
food,
just
and
generally enjoy it.
I
Yeah.
just really enjoy, like, sharing like healthy food with people, and I enjoy showing people that it can be simple to be healthy, because one of the biggest things that my clients in the past have struggled with is, it's like, if I have to be healthy, that means it's expensive, it's a lot of time, and I just don't believe that. Like, you can
Yeah.
make a smoothie so quickly, and it's so nutrition. You can add greens, you can add vegetables, you can add fruits, you can add a protein that's going to fill you. You don't have to eat meat. Like,
Yeah.
it's all these things where I just love sharing that. So I think that would be my three. Especially when I'm traveling, I love sharing food because you find
Oh
some
yeah.
cool places
Yeah.
to eat.
Yeah. So you're in Toronto, right?
Yes.
Oh, gosh, I've had some really great meals in Toronto. I really need to figure this thing out. Like, dig a tunnel. I don't know.
I love living here. It's awesome.
Yeah, I
It's so
can't wait to go
multicultural.
back.
Yeah, it's so multicultural. You can find, like, if you want Mexican food, you want
Mhm.
Chinese food, you want Lebanese food, you want
Yeah.
Indian food. Like, literally, I can go into Uber Eats and order something so authentic today, and I think that's what I love about living in a big city is, the just being able to explore. I think that's just part of my personality. Like, and I think that's
Mhm.
why personal development is such a huge part. It's just like, I just love learning new things and
Yeah,
exploring new
different
things.
cultures and stuff. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. So I definitely have to hit you up next time I'm in Toronto and we'll
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
something
100%.
to eat. So one of the last questions I have here is, was there ever a time in either your life or business that you felt like you weren't living on brand? You weren't being true to yourself. You weren't being authentic. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, you realized it after. And once you realize this, what did you do to kind of navigate your way back to living on brand?
So I think for me, when I started my coaching business, it'll be about a year and a bit now, that I really started to jump into. I was too broad. Like, I was like,
Mm,
I'm just going to coach people, let's say, like, on businesses or whatever the case may be, teach them how to grow their business. And then what I started to realize, the more people I worked with, was that spirituality was a big part of my coaching. Like, I wanted to teach people about spirituality. I wanted people to meditate. I wanted people to journal about their deep, dark, clouds that they don't want
yeah.
to look at. And I realized that not everybody's ready to do that work. And
Mm,
so I decided, this is recently, really in the last couple of months, that I decided that I really want to work with people who are spiritual,
yeah.
like healers and spiritual coaches, and anybody who incorporates energy work into their business. Those are my people, because what I was finding was, like, I wanted to teach these things that have made such a huge impact on me, but people just weren't willing. Like, they would say, yeah, I'll do it, but then they would never
Right.
do it because
Right.
it wasn't resonating with them. And so I've just decided that, like, I just only want to work with people who are in that realm. So
Yeah.
that's why I changed my branding and said, I'm going to be working with spiritual leaders, because that puts people in a whole different category. When you
Yeah,
say
it
spiritual
does.
leader, somebody who has, let's say, even something like they designed, or like a VA, let's say, for example, if someone's a VA and they're looking for a coach to grow their business, if they're not spiritual, they're not going to look at me,
Mm,
because they're going to be like, well, she's going to be teaching me the woo. She's not going to be teaching me strategy.
yeah.
But what they don't understand is, like, the woo is 80% and the strategy is 20% of your
Yeah. Even
business.
I would bet even like 90-10, but
Yeah. And I actually, I saw a coach once write that she was frustrated that people say that that's the percentage. 80 is mindset, 20 is business. And she's like, it's 50-50. And I'm like, Well, like you can have all the branding you want. You can have
Yeah.
the website, you can have everything you want. And that's, I think I think that's a small portion of your brand, because that stuff gets done and then you just create content around that. But it's how you show up. It's how you write the content. It's how you show up for yourself, how you show up for
Mhm.
your clients. That's the 80%.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we're not always redoing our brand. Like we may be tweaking and changing and like changing colors or whatever the case may be, but our true brand, we're never really changing unless we're like me, who's like completely doing something
Right.
different.
Right.
But once I'm here, right? So the mental part of it, or the spiritual part of it, I mean, some people call it mindset or whatever. I mean, I call it mindset as well, because I want people to relate to it. But for me, it's like I want to work with people who are already spiritual, who are already doing meditations, who are already doing retreats, who are already speaking to their higher self, because that's where I thrive.
Yeah.
And with my channeling abilities, somebody who doesn't really understand that part would be very triggered by me saying, well, I don't really have a plan on how we're going to coach. I just know
Mm.
I want to teach you these 5 things, but I don't have modules. This is maybe why I struggle so much with creating a course, is because it's too restrictive for
Yeah.
me. Like as much as I have like a plan of what I want to do, a lot of it gets channeled through me,
That's interesting.
because people's spirit team shows up too. And like when I take people into that deeper state or that deeper conversation, I actually get messages from their team as well. And for somebody who's not really tuned into that, will have a really hard time, and they're going to want, like, I know a lot of people are like, we want all the details of like exactly what I'm going to learn in this thing. And it's like, no, I'm just going to show you what you're going to look like after you're done. Like, that's all I talk about.
Yeah.
Because and the people who are in this world will understand that, because they believe that whatever shows up for them is showing up for a reason, and they're
Yep.
supposed to get that message. But I don't know, maybe that'll change over time, as my team grows. I recently hired a VA and a Pinterest expert to just do the things that like I don't like doing, first of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also like
Or like energy sucks. Like you want to make sure that
exactly.
especially with the channeling that you're doing, you want to make sure that you're
Exactly.
conserving the energy for that
Yeah.
powerful work.
Exactly. So there are like, guys, it's not just all energy. Like there is some strategy to your business, that's for sure.
Yeah, of course.
And like I'm getting that, I'm outsourcing some of that, and some of that I'm doing myself, like my podcast. Like that's part of the work that I'm doing. But a lot of it is just like, I don't have all the answers for you right this moment when you sign the contract.
Right.
But like I will, like,
Yeah.
I know based on what you're telling me, like I can take you there as long as you're willing to do the work with me.
Yeah.
Anything is possible for you if you're willing to change your old programming, your old beliefs about
Mm.
how it's supposed to look like, and just trust that whatever feels good is what's supposed to show up.
Yeah,
I'm
I love that.
teaching a lot on rewiring old programming, because I really truly believe that a lot of the times, especially people going from corporate to business, they are taking their corporate rules and regulations and they take it into their business, and then they struggle because they don't understand that corporate structure doesn't work in our soul aligned business.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, because it's somebody else's idea, it's somebody else's structure, it's somebody else's rules, and we have to create our own. And in order to do that, we have to be open-minded, and we have to listen to ourselves. Like we just have to intuitively believe that what we're doing, even when it feels crazy, even when it doesn't make sense, even if we're like, no one's going to buy this, we have to change that mentality and say, what is my true reason that I'm here? Like, why did I start this thing? Like,
Yeah.
why did I really, truly start this thing? Because I guarantee you that if you tune into that, that's what's going to guide you to make the decision of like, where should I go next in my business?
Absolutely.
Because if we start to
I have like chills right now.
yeah, because if we have like, I'll be honest, I'm probably channeling right now too, because I don't really know what I'm saying. I'm like always trying to go, what was the question that she asked me? Because I just like talk, like this is why I love my podcast, is because I can just like blabble on about like whatever spirit tells me I'm supposed to talk about. So I even forgot what I said, but anyways, essentially, like, just listen to yourself and your intuition. It is the most powerful tool you have in your box as a business owner. I think when we think about like, well, I got to do what she's doing because like that's working, and it's probably working for her, but like, what's going to work for you?
Yeah, this is about you. What's going to work for you?
Right. And when you make that decision that you are going to listen to your intuition, you're going to keep doing the things that make you feel good, whether or not it makes other people feel good, is when you will build the business of your dream. It's when we are trying to please everyone else is when everything falls apart.
And that's literally the definition of living on brand.
Perfect.
I love it.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I want you guys to be inspired to just like get out of your own way and out of old programming and just like do what you want to do.
Yeah.
One of my, I released an episode today that one of my points that I talk about when people are keeping themselves small, burnt out, and unfulfilled is when they do shit they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Especially when they do shit they don't like because they think it's going to work for them because they see it working for somebody else. Exactly. And that's not to say like we shouldn't experiment if we're trying to figure out the ways that work for us, but at the same time, we shouldn't just do something because somebody else is doing it. You have to really feel like connected to it. And I 100%. Think that's something, I think that's a lesson that I learned the deeper I got into just entrepreneurship in general.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like courses is the perfect example. Mm-hmm. Everyone's doing courses right now. Everyone's creating courses right now about all of the things. They are getting niche down to the point. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should make a course because it's like residual income, it's cheap. People will buy. Yeah. Like, but that just sounds so hard.
Yeah.
Like for me, like to sit down and create a course, it just feels so hard.
I think it'll be something that comes to you because I think so I do see a course working for you. And this is like me channeling now. I 100% see some kind of course. And maybe that's like how to listen to your spirit guides or something. Yeah. But it has to be in the right time. And the only way I'm saying this is because I had planned a mini course back in January. Yeah. And I was like putting it off. I had an idea for it. But that I let in that space, like, yes, it took me way longer than I expected, but in that space, I let it develop into this beautiful, magnificent thing that's supposed to be now. So it'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, but like, thank God I didn't put it out 5 months ago because I would be shit because it was missing that connection.
Exactly. And I think what the point I'm trying to make is like, I see so much success online with courses. Mm-hmm. Like I follow people who only teach courses and they're making like 10, 20, 30K a month just in courses. Just all they're doing is just, they made the course and then all they do is market. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, that would be so easy. But then I'm like, but that feels so hard to like create that in this moment. Right. So it's like, it's just an example to say like, if you're doing something like, and I have people also tell me like they hate working one-on-one with people. They want to create courses. I'm like, so go do that.
Yeah.
So go do that. If it doesn't make you feel good to work one-on-one with somebody, go do the thing that makes you feel good. And when you start doing more of that and less of the other stuff is when your business will explode. This is how you scale. This is a huge part of scaling is just start doing the things you love.
Yeah. It's not about necessarily doing all the things. It's about doing the things that you feel connected to, that you feel pulled to.
Because when you do that, the way you're going to show up on all of your platforms, in your emails, in anything is what's going to sell. That's the thing that's going to sell. And people are going to be so attracted to how you show up that they're going to forget what they're buying because they just want to work with you, or they want, like, same with courses. People, I have watching people sell courses like hotcakes. Why? Because they're showing up and saying, listen, I created this thing because it helped me so much that I know it's going to help you. And they just keep delivering the message over and over and over again. And that's why they're successful, because it's all about how they show up in their container with the thing that they love. And the thing is if you're selling something you don't love, and this is the thing that I teach in my
I was just going to say, would you say that this is the definition of soulful selling?
Exactly. That's the definition of soulful selling, is showing up, selling the thing that you love. And sometimes, like, especially for people who are, let's say, are in network marketing, okay? Like, they don't want to start their own business. They don't want to be a coach. They don't want to whatever. So they choose to partner themselves with a company, and they don't see a lot of success. And I say to them, well, one is the company like if you are a customer, would you buy from the company? Like, would you be an avid
Right.
customer of that company? And if the answer is yes, then that means there's a belief thing that's happening with you. It's not about the company. It's not about what you're selling. It's
Mm-hmm.
how you're showing up. Like, is it maybe that you feel like everyone's judging you?
Yeah.
And you're not selling because you feel like you're doing a thing that makes other people feel uncomfortable, and you are a people pleaser and you want to help people feel good in their own skin. But
Yeah.
you're not looking at yourself and saying like, but I love this and I'm obsessed with this and I want to teach others how to do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you're selling for somebody else, the most important part is align yourself with a company you love. And if you were to be a customer of that company, you know you're in the right place. But
Yeah.
if sales feels, and the other thing too is like, if you keep telling yourself sales feels icky, that's exactly what's going to be. Because guess what's replaying over and over again when you get on a sales call, when you're talking to somebody, is I hate sales. So what does that person hear? Well, she's not that good at sales. Or like
Yeah.
she's trying to, and people feel that without even knowing that they feel
Yeah.
it. They just get
Absolutely.
they just get that energy transferred to them, and they start doubting themselves. Oh, maybe this isn't the right fit or whatever. But it's when you show up so confidently about what you're doing and what you're selling, and being okay with people saying no. Because even with me as a coach, people say no to me all the time
Yeah.
without me. Like, I'm selling myself and people say no to me.
Yeah.
And that's okay because, and I say no to people too, because I'm really picky about who I work with.
Right.
Being in the energy world, again, you have to make sure you're doing the things and working with the people you love, because then you're just going to be drained and you're not going to be able to help anybody.
Yep. That's where boundaries comes into play.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
Wow, that was like super powerful. I feel like I got so much out of this conversation. So I know everybody
Awesome.
else is going to get so much out of this conversation. But do you have any last thoughts for us? Let us know what you're working on. Let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, so I hang out on Instagram a lot. So I have lots of awesome things there. Of course, the Soulful Selling podcast. I have 2 episodes a week that come out. One's a guest episode, one is a solo. The solo is really short. It's just like my tidbit for the week. My guest episodes are more in depth. Sometimes they're an hour and a bit. And I love it because I just go deep with people about, what they're doing and how can that help people to sell
Yeah.
better. How can they, align themselves better? And then sometimes, I just have conversations that just feel good, and I love sharing those as well.
Yeah.
So those are 2 great places to find me. And then I am currently running, well, I'm in the launch process. We're officially launching next week, but I have created a mastermind called the Sisterhood Circle. It's a mastermind for the spiritual leader. This program got channeled through me. I literally was walking the
Guys,
dog.
she told me this whole story of how this program came, and I was like jaw on the floor.
Like, literally was walking the dog, and I was like, okay, I like have this thought of like, I want to bring women together to like heal our like trauma around sisterhood. That's one. And then I'm like, and then also like I realized that like a lot of spiritual healers think that money isn't spiritual when it's like the most spiritual thing ever. And so I was like, I need to create a program where I can support women on that level, and I can also show them what abundance actually looks like.
Yeah.
Like how can that actually look in their life? Because
What it looks like, what it feels like.
exactly, because when good-hearted people make a lot of money, we can really change the world. We can do crazy things, but it's getting there is where the work is. So that's my new project. It's brand new, and I'm obsessed with it because it's really a program that I'm being called to teach. So that's special. When you are being called, and this is why I want to encourage you guys to really just tune into who you are and what you want to do, because when you are being guided to teach something, it's like I'm just getting the shivers just thinking about it, because that's where the magic happens. When we are doing stuff that we are here to do is when we rise to the top.
Yeah.
Not just with money, but like with our life, we just are on top of the world. So that's my new project. My last thought, honestly, just follow your heart and what you want to do, and stop caring about what other people want you to do. Like, and if that feels really, really weird to you, and if I'm triggering you just by saying that, then I want you to explore that. I want you to explore why you're getting triggered by wanting to do things that actually feel good.
Yeah.
Because there's an underlining thing. And I bet you when you crack that open and when you release that and you let it go, magical things will happen in your life.
Yeah.
Magical, because it's happened to me. I've seen it happen to all of my clients. I see it happening on podcasts all the time, just having interviews with people. So be okay with asking yourself the hard questions. And if it makes you cry, if it makes you crazy, if it makes you feel sick, like just bring all that up, because it's just physically sitting in your body and it's ready to come out. Yeah. Only if you're ready to do the work. Like, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're ready to do the work, because we don't.
If you've gotten, absolutely.
And especially this long. I mean, we've been chatting for a while. If you're still listening, it means that you're here for a reason and you're here to do.
You were supposed to receive this message today.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So if you're receiving this message, just tune in, ask yourself, and if you need help, I'm always here.
Mm-hmm. We both are, guys. You don't have to go through this crazy journey on your own. I don't mean crazy as in it's a bad thing. I mean crazy as because there's going to be so much transformations that happen for you in a very short amount of time. So that can be scary in itself, but we are here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like recently I'm going through an up level, like a huge up level right now. And I was actually feeling physical pain the last month.
Yes.
Like I was experiencing like random, like my leg for some reason was just like spasming. I'm like, guys, I'm like, I exercise I haven't been able to exercise because I've been in pain. I drink ton of water. I eat awesome food. So you would think that somebody like me would be totally fine. And if I wasn't tuned in, I would be like, oh my God,
what's happening to me?
What's happening? I have to get an MRI. I have to do all these things. But really, it's just like my chakras are upgrading. Like I'm leveling up my body. I'm literally removing all the old beliefs I had in my body. And that's how they show up, is in pain. It's because they're so deep rooted. And that's the exciting part, actually. Is as we're upgrading and as we're up leveling and we're letting go of the things that are no longer serving us, we get to be the best versions of ourselves and actually do the work that we're supposed to do here on earth.
Yep. If there is anybody out there who feels like their life is in complete turmoil, I want you to think about it as you are about to become the very best version of yourself in the next very near future. You got this, guys.
And just keep that in the forefront, right? Just keep talking about how the next big thing is coming. If you're doing the work and you feel like crazy, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're up leveling. It's all good.
We're excited for you.
Yes, 100%.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such a soulful conversation, and I have a feeling that you'll be back in the near future to talk to us again.
Yes, thank you so much, Danielle. It's been amazing.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.